Okay, everybody. So we are live and we are about to start our fifth grade panel. I am just going to give everybody a few minutes so we could gather some more participants, and hopefully we'll be ready to go. I am just going to give everybody a few minutes so we could gather some more participants, and hopefully. Okay. Okay, we have 19 people watching so far. So we can all wave and say hi, and then we'll just give it a few more minutes. I want to get a little bit more. It's only 6:46, so we'll wait a little bit longer. It's awkward waiting. Okay. So I'm going to get us started. This will be recorded and on YouTube for people who want to join and be able to watch it later. I know this was a crazy time of year, especially with the budget vote today, so I didn't plan that all so well, so I apologize. But I'm going to first introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Ferrante. I'm the principal at Salem, and I'm going to have each of our panelists introduce themselves. We do this every year as a means for our current fifth grade Salem students to be able, and parents, to be able to ask questions to current sixth graders. So, and they just went through the transition, so it's very exciting to hear from them what their experiences were. So we're really looking forward to hearing them. Thank you all so much for agreeing to this and coming back to Salem and to help your former Salem students. So we're very excited. So I'm going to start with Izzy, and I'm going to pop myself out and pop in somebody else who is waiting also.
Hi, my name is Izzy, and this is my mom, and I'm from Greenhouse.
Hi, I'm Madden, and these are my parents, and I'm in Blue House.
Hi, my name is Dylan, and this is my mom, and I'm in Yellow House.
Hi, my name is Noah, this is my mom, and I'm in Blue House.
Hi, my name is Noelle, this is my mom, and I'm in Greenhouse.
Hi, my name's Stella, this is my mom, and I'm in Greenhouse.
Okay, so welcome everybody officially. Thank you all so much for doing this. So first I'd like to just start and ask off the bat, are there any of the fifth graders or their parents who have any questions just right off the beginning? You can type it right into the, post a comment in the YouTube channel that you're watching, and you can do so as we go along. So feel free to enter in any question that you have as we are doing this. Okay, so as we know, this year was very different from some of our, for our current sixth graders experience, and next year still might be a little different. You will all be having an orientation. All fifth graders will be having an orientation in late August. So by then, Ms. Javelin, who's the principal, will know a lot more of what it's all going to look like, so she can be able to tell you exactly what's going to happen. So for example, one big difference that our current sixth graders did not experience this year, where they sometimes do experience, are lockers. So there's lockers in the hallway, and traditionally what happens is that you can go to your locker 4 times throughout the day to gather your books and your belongings. You can go in the morning, you can go before lunch, after lunch, and at the end of the day. But since of COVID protocols, they reduced that and did not allow people to go to their lockers. So we're not sure what that's going to look like for next year. But Ms. Javelin, like I said, as we get closer, we'll let you know. If lockers are allowed, or sometimes you just want to practice, it might be a really good idea to buy one of those the turn locks, those master locks at Rite Aid, and you could easily do that and practice over the summer, because it's a skill on how to turn right a couple times, turn left a couple times, and go back to the right. So as always said, you can do even for our current 6th graders if you want to practice over the summer in case 7th grade you're going to be having lockers. So I'm going to first start and ask. I'm going to ask Noah this question. So they all introduce themselves with their houses. Please tell me what a house is at Weber Middle School, what that means.
Okay, so because a lot of the grades are so big, because they combine all of the elementary schools, one giant chaotic group would be too much, so they split it into 4 houses. 4 or 5? It's 4, not 5. Okay. And red, green, blue, and yellow. And depending on that, you might have different teachers if you were in blue house than if you were in red house.
So do the kids in red and the kids in blue interact at all?
From what I can tell, not really, but I know there's some rainbow classes, and those are like the languages, and those classes you can have with any house, but most classes are just blue house. And this year, I know it's kind of weird, so I'm not sure if this is how it always is, but they kind of group together blue and green house, and then they group together red and yellow house. So I'm not sure if that's going to be how it is.
Right. So you'll find out from Ms. Javelin, but absolutely correct. It is a house has 4 houses. It is to make the feel of the grade smaller, so you're not feeling like you're in a school with all of those big children, and you're in a smaller 100 set of your family. Your house becomes your family. To answer sort of what Mrs. Singer was saying, that you do have that opportunity to intermingle in normal years in your encore classes. I'm going to explain what encore classes is. Noah did explain one, which is foreign language. So that is considered a rainbow class, the foreign language. So I'm going to turn it over to Madden. I'm going to pull her up front. I am going to have her talk about core classes, what a core class is, and then we can get into an encore classes.
So a core class is basically like your basic class that you have with your homeroom. And your homeroom is the people that you stay with for your core classes. And your core classes are social studies, math, English, science, your basic classes, basically.
Perfect. Right. So our core classes are English, math, science, and math. English, social studies, science, and math. Excuse me. And Demir wants to know if you have any of your friends from Salem in your classes. So this might be very different for different people. But Madam, why don't you continue, since we're on you? Continue with that question.
So especially with pods, you might be with people, you might not be. I am with one of my friends from Salem, but the rest are not in my pod, but I see them in the other classes.
And you made so many new friends.
That's great.
And I made new friends.
A lot of new friends.
That definitely happens in middle school. Noelle, do you want to add to that comment too about friends?
Yeah, I know me and Stella were friends since like 2nd grade, and we're in each other's pod. So yeah.
Great. It happens. It definitely happens. So you might not have a lot of your Salem friends, but just for everyone to know, we do try to separate the houses, so you'll have an even balance of boys from Salem and girls from Salem. It might not be your closest of friends, but at least you'll see some familiar faces in the same house as you. Okay, so I'm going to move on to Noelle. Since you just answered a question, I'm going to have you continue. Why don't you talk about what encore classes are?
So that's like what your language classes, and if like you go to like an extra help class or something throughout the day, or like I know some of us, we have health, or some people have PEP, or like core extension, but it's basically just all the classes you have that aren't your core class.
So facts, art.
all like facts, art, and we had tech.
Okay, so our Salem people are gonna have no idea when you say facts. They're gonna be like, "What? Math facts?" They're not gonna know what facts mean. So facts stands for Family and Consumer Sciences. For all the parents, it used to be Home and Careers back when we were in school, or Home Economics. Now, what did you do in facts?
I have that right now, so we haven't finished, but we're doing sewing right now, and I'm pretty sure we have to take care of like an egg for like a week or something.
And what does that egg represent?
A baby.
A baby, right? So it's about childcare, it's about nutrition, it's about cooking and sewing. So it's all that kind of fun stuff. And then there's also technology. Stella, do you want to talk a little bit about technology? Did you do technology yet?
Yeah, like tech class.
Yes.
Yeah, so in tech class, you learn about technology, and this year we didn't get to do some of the things you would usually get to do, but we learned how to make a Google Slides site. We were supposed to make stickers and print out things onto t-shirts and make our own designs. So it's not really just like electronics and technology. It's more about like engineering and stuff. And also we did sites, we did movie posters, we did photo editing, and we did a lot of things like that.
Great. Dylan, did you want to add to that? I saw your hand raised.
For tech, I have it now, and we're doing photo editing and video editing. And I feel that tech is a little more like together because you get to work sometimes in groups if you want to make like a video together, which is, I just think a lot of people think is fun.
Right. It's great. Group projects, hands-on, right? A lot of different types of projects, and like Stella, I think Stella mentioned that it's not exactly the same as what it has been in the past, but they keep trying to do a lot of the engineering principles and a lot of group projects that they can. There's another question here that I skipped over. I apologize. How long does it take to learn your way around the school? It might be a little different this year, just based on they're not moving as much. But Izzy, do you think you want to tackle that? Do you feel like that you've moved enough around the school to answer that question? Okay.
Yeah, so I know some of my classes, like a lot of my classes are in the same hallway. So, I mean, if it was a regular school year, you wouldn't really have to move around as much.
Which classes are in the same hallway so they know?
I know my science and math class, math room are like right next to each other. And I think the social studies and English are also. But with foreign language, it's in a different place.
What happened? What did happen this year when you did PE? Did you have to go to PE, or did you have to? Did they come to you?
Well, we had to go to the track.
Okay, perfect. Noah, you had your hand raised. I saw.
Yeah, I know in Blue House at least that if you look in one hallway, there is social studies, and then English, and then math, and then science, all lined up. And then Spanish, which I chose, I got kind of lucky, and it was right also down that same hallway, but I know it won't always be that way. And then Blue House is also near the new music wing, like the new arts wing. So Blue House pretty much has everything kind of lined up. And then I know a lot of the other houses are also pretty organized. But for me, it only took a few days to find my way around like the school. But also for the first 3 quarters, I just stayed in one classroom all day. So I don't know how good of an example that is. But recently when we switched to all in school, then we had to move around a bit more. And that's when it took maybe I'd say it kind of took the whole school week 5 days. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but once you walk around a few times, you get a pretty good idea of the way the school is laid out. But the first time you're going to get lost, ask for help.
That is great advice. I saw a lot of head nods when people say it might take a couple of days, but you're going to figure it out. But when you're first there as a sixth grader, if we are moving, if you're regular, and it's all normal, back to normal next year, which I know a lot of us are hoping, the teachers stand in the hallways as the students are moving from class to class. So if we're back to normal and every period you're changing classes, there's going to be teachers in the hallway. So just like Noah said, if there's a situation where you have no idea where you are, just ask an adult and they'll lead you in the right direction. It is pretty there's a system to all of it a little bit, so you'll get used to it. And just remember, 4 out of your 9 periods are all in the same hallway, which is really nice. Your math, science, English, and social studies are all in the same hallway. Okay, why don't we go to Stella? Stella, talk a little bit about A days and B days.
Oh, okay. So it was different with us going on and off every 2 days a week or 3, because it kind of started off with us slowly regaining back. But on a regular school day, it usually starts off with it switching on and off. So one day it will be A. For example, if Monday's an A day, Tuesday would be a B day, Wednesday would be an A day, and so on and so forth until like Friday. And then if Friday ends on an A day, Monday would start with a B day. But for us this year, in the beginning of the year, there was A day, B day, and then C day, and then B day, A day. So it didn't go on and off. It was a specific pattern that we followed every week. But they're not really that confusing. I know it sounds confusing with schedules and stuff, and I was really confused with it. But then after I realized that it's really just the same thing on and off, it was a lot easier, and you get a hang of it after like 2 days. So.
And the nice thing is that your 4 core subjects, the math, science, English, and social studies, are the same on A days and B days. Same thing with your foreign language, right? So it just maybe times of the day change. You might have some in the morning and some in the afternoon. And then what happens between A days and B days is that maybe on A day you might have phys ed, and then on the B day you might have music, and it alternates back and forth that way. So that's why there's A days and B days, just to change that around a little bit. Okay, why don't we talk a little bit about homework? And why don't Dylan, why don't you talk a little bit about the homework difference between Salem and Weber, if there was a homework difference between Salem and Weber, and what you did to help organize yourself?
Okay. The homework between Salem and Weber, for me at least, was not a super big change. It might have been a little bit about foreign language was a little bit difficult for homework sometimes. But other than that, I only really had homework for math and foreign language. And I'd say stay organized, because a lot of people start to forget your homework like pretty early on. And it's not easy to like find your homework and like get rushed.
That's great advice, Dylan. Stay on top of it. Some teachers actually even use their homework grade as a test grade. It's not true for everybody, every house, but and for every class, but that definitely is true. Noelle, do you want to add to that homework conversation?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that sometimes that like different houses get different amount of homework each night. But mainly if you have the same teachers, if you're in the same house as someone, you'll probably have about the same homework as like say your friend in another house, a pod or something in greenhouse. But it's really shouldn't be too much if you like manage your time right and stuff. But there is more like tests and stuff that you get, so there's more studying.
Thank you, Noelle. Madden, you've been patient with raising your hand. Do you want to add about the homework?
Also, some classes for homework you don't have homework in, or they're pass-fail classes. So like chorus or music is a pass-fail class. So, and you usually won't have homework in that. Same with health, at least for me. So.
Right. So it depends on the class, maybe the amount of homework. And I saw someone asked, I think Demir asked, is there homework differences between houses? I think Noelle said there may be some differences, but I think that also depends on if some teachers do project-based long-term assignments versus every night assignments. So there can be differences. You're not going to have the same homework across all 4 houses exactly the same, just as it is in Salem. If you remember back to 5th grade or 4th grade, 3rd grade, all teachers gave different levels of homework. So it's sort of similar in that way. Now, what do you want to add to the homework conversation?
Yeah. So I remember different classes and different houses definitely get different amounts of homework. I know the homework difference from Salem to Weber for me, it took some getting used to, but the shift wasn't too big. And also, back to what they were saying earlier about organization, stay organized. Like, it's not one of my strong suits. I wish it was. But losing your homework, it's the worst feeling. Just looking through your binder for your math homework and it not being there. Because not only does it lower your grade, but, like, your teacher also isn't very happy about it. So stay organized. Make sure you stay organized and triple check everything.
That's great advice.
It seems unnecessary, but it is. You need it.
Parents, do you have any comments about homework, what you're seeing at home from Salem versus Weber? Do you want to make any comments? Yep, I see Mrs. Singer, then Mrs. Kinsey, then Mrs. Falco.
Just one thing that took a little adjusting to are projects that were multi-step with different due dates. This year, I know that in other years they use their planners. This year, I don't know if it was full school or just nose classes, but they weren't using them and they were relying on the Google Classroom, which is a great skill, but it's definitely a specific skill to be able to track longer term projects. That took a little bit of time to adjust to, and we definitely got there and did fine. But that's a difference we found between Salem and Weber was, a project that might be 2 weeks in the works. And, it's kind of easy to fall a few days behind and then on a Thursday night realize you have more work than time.
Yeah.
So that was a change, completely doable. And like I said, I thought a great life skill, but something that did come up.
That's
I'm
good.
sure everybody it's happened to before, but when you have a week for an assignment and then it's Thursday night at 8 p.m. and you're like, oh shoot, this is due.
Yes.
And then you just have to race to get it done and you're really stressed. Don't let that happen ever.
I always used to say, just to add to what the singers were saying, when I was a counselor at Weber, I would tell the parents or the student to get a monthly calendar, and then whenever you got the project, just to write it in so you visually could see all the due dates throughout those 2 weeks or throughout the month. So it's always a good suggestion. Mrs. Kinsey, do you want to add about homework, and then Mrs. Falco, then we'll switch topics.
Yeah, I was just going to add that one of the biggest transitions, I think, from going from Salem to Weber is now all of a sudden you're navigating all these different teachers, and they all have different styles and different ways of assigning homework, different ways that they space out due dates. And I think that's an adjustment, but it does come pretty quickly, and you get to know the teachers well. But it's something right at the beginning that can be a little bit hard to figure out.
And Mrs. Falco?
So one of the things that I found helpful as a parent was that one of Izzy's teachers suggested that there's a way to create a summary in Google Classroom. So at the end of each week, I get a summary of all the assignments and if anything's missing. So I think both of us found that helpful as an additional check. If there was, because sometimes they turn in assignments in class, but then when they get home, they're expected to turn it in Google Classroom. And obviously, she'll get distracted and forget to do it. So we both found that easy. At the end of the week, there's a quick summary and we see what's due, what's coming up. So it's just a helpful overview for parents.
That's a great suggestion versus my old school suggestion of the calendar. So that's a 2021 version. I like that. Thank you. Okay, we have some questions from our fifth graders. So I'm going to switch to these questions and we can continue on with other things if we need to. So I have, hi, this is Ethan. How much time do you have between classes? Madden, do you want to answer that question?
Well, this year you would usually have around 5 minutes, like if you were walking to a class, but for us, the teachers come to you. So it also depends on how far the teacher is coming from, if they had an off period or if they were at the class next to you.
Perfect. Yeah, but Madam's right. You have about 4 minutes between classes if you're moving classes. So if for next year you realize that you are in one house and then the next class is all the way on the opposite side of the school, 4 minutes, you need to walk. Socialization should be limited because it's going to be hard to get to the classes if you talk too much with your friends. In the beginning of the school year, if you're late to classes, if you're moving, do not worry. The teachers completely understand that you have to transition, you have to learn where everything is. You're not sure where the classes are. So if you're late, do not worry, do not stress. They don't penalize you at all. If you still are late in June, that's a different story. So just make sure you're always on time as the year progresses. Another question is, will we be able to go into Weber before school starts next year? I'll answer that question. Yes, Ms. Javelin's holding an orientation at the end of August for everybody. We answered the question about homework differences. And then Mrs. Russo is asking, do you always get the first choice of language you choose? I'll answer that. Want to answer that one? No, I think actually raise your hands if you got your first language choice on the screen. First language choice, Stella, yes, yes. Noelle's behind the scenes saying yes too, so she got her first choice. So honestly, the 99.99% of the time, you do get your first language choice. Sometimes something will happen, and the counselor will give you a call over the summer if that is the case. Okay, Willow wants to know what lunch is like. I think lunch might have been a little different this year than other years, but why don't we have Dylan respond to that?
Lunch for half in, we were all in the same classroom and we all took our mask offs for lunch period and we all went outside at the same time. But since we went in full time, we had to walk to a new lunch place, either in the cafeteria or like in a band room. And then you would go out to where your recess is at any time you want.
So does anyone else want to add to the lunch conversation? Stella, you want to add a little bit to the lunch?
Sorry, yeah, for me this year also, we also go outside on the track for green and blue house, and I don't know if it's the same next year or if it's the same like without COVID, but for us, like blue sixth grade is also with us. It's not just green that's outside. So like kind of what I think Dylan said it, yellow and red I think usually are together for like lunch and stuff. Because we also do eat lunch kind of weirdly. We're all like 6 feet apart in the gym for us. But like I think Noah's in Blue House and I still see him at lunchtime. So you still see people from different houses at lunch.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, so under this COVID protocols, they had to do the pods a little bit and make sure everyone's 6 feet apart. Normally, everyone eats in the cafeteria. There's different lunch periods for different grades. But if we still have to maintain 6 feet apart with masks off for lunch, it will be similar. So it would be in other areas besides just the cafeteria. And there is recess also. So just like Salem, there's not a playground really, or those kind of options or basketball courts, but there is recess where you're able to go unwind a little bit after lunch and socialize and hang out with your friends. So it's normally within a 45-minute period, half is lunch, half is recess under normal circumstances. I think right now it's a little different just because they want to have the children eat and then go outside just to help with the COVID protocols. Noah, do you want to add about lunch?
I don't really have much to say about normal lunch because I haven't had it, but I do have friends in older grades like 7th and 8th, and they tell me recess is boring because there's no playground or anything. You should always bring like a deck of cards, a board game, a football, just something to keep you occupied.
That's a very good advice. Very okay. I see. Hold on one second. I see Noelle in the background. I'm going to get her up front so she can talk more about this. Hi, Noelle.
Hi. So I feel like at recess, we have green and blue have recess out on the track, and you could like walk on the track or like basically do like really anything you want there. But I don't know if like you guys are gonna have this, but sometimes there's always like some sort of game going on, like, and like I play soccer at recess because a lot of people play soccer, and yeah.
Thank you, Noelle. Okay, who wants to describe the first day of school? Izzy, you want to give that a shot? Jake wants to know what the first day of school is like.
So the first day of school, I was really nervous because I had no idea what was going to happen. And we had like kind of like an orientation at school, just showing us where our classroom was going to be. And I kind of got lost, but I figured it out, and I knew where everything was, so it wasn't really that bad.
So those feelings are completely normal. The nervous, the excitement. I mean, this transition, there's a lot happening. There's going to be, excitement about what middle school's like, moving on to the next stage, because middle school can be really exciting. Being more independent, having your own 9 different classes, all these different teachers. That's really exciting. I mean, it's nervous because you're not sure what to expect, and you're leaving, one teacher, a small little elementary school to a bigger school. So all that is completely normal to feel. So Izzy, thank you for admitting that you were nervous in the first day of school, because I think everybody is. So thank you for that. Sally, you want to add about the first day of school?
Yeah, I have to agree. I was really nervous, but one thing that was overwhelming was how big the school was, because you don't even know what entrance to go in. I don't even know if they specify that for us. But I was lucky to have my one of my friends my cousin who's in 7th grade help me in my classroom. But there are people in the hallway for you everywhere. Like they have lists where everyone needs to go. So if you're worried about getting lost, you don't need to be worried at all. You don't even need to like have a 7th grade friend like I did, because right when you walk in, there are people there that have like clipboards that are ready to get you to your classroom. And if you're like late, like I was late, they won't mind at all on the first day. Even the first week, they said that they wouldn't mind, because the school is still so new to you, especially with us being in COVID. It's even more new. Like we didn't know what to expect at all, because it was brand new to us. So like the first 2 weeks, they won't be hard about you being late. For me, at least my teachers weren't. And they'll help you get your classes, and you'll understand everything. So you don't need to be worried about being lost on the first day.
Thank you. I see Noah raising his hand in the background, so I'm going to have him come forward, talk a little bit about this, and then we're going to switch to home bases after that.
I remember the school is very big, but it's significantly less intimidating than it looks. When you first walk into the building, you're hit with this sense of, oh no. And I'll admit, on my first day, I walked around. I found someone, and then we walked around together for a solid 15-20 minutes before finding our classroom, which it turns out was, I don't know, 30 seconds from the entrance. So that was interesting. And I remember it took a while to get adjusted to the masks. I don't think you guys will have to deal with that as much. And another thing I remember was the first week, they're not making you write an essay on the second day of school. Like, I remember I was worried about that, like getting like an assignment handed to me as soon as I walked through the door on my first day. No, they're nice. They kind of like ease you into it. The first week is more about introductions and actual work. And the second week, it kind of picks up the pace. So don't freak out. Ask for directions. I didn't do that, and it was not good.
Thank you, Noah.
Ask for directions.
Madden, can you talk a little bit about what home base is? Someone mentioned it earlier, and I realized that maybe our fifth graders don't know what home base is. Can you talk about that?
Well, home base is, so you'll see other students in your home base, and those will be the people that you will travel with to your core classes, and maybe even your language or other classes. You might just have them in there, but you'll have other students from that class too. So it's basically where you can get all your stuff together, make sure you have everything, and you just start there, so you don't just go straight to one class.
What happens in home base?
They do attendance. Well, right now for us, we don't really do that much. Well, we socialize and do attendance. That's pretty much it.
Anybody? Noelle, what else happens in home base? Thank you, Maddie.
I feel like home base is just like a solid like 20 minutes that you could just like unpack and like get everything ready before you start having your like classes, and like you could like talk to your friends and like or like your sometimes I know my home base teacher tells us about like some of the things that like are coming up. Like I had the NWAs the other day for some of my classes, and my home base teacher told us that like in home base, like yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Izzy, anything else you want to add about home base?
Home base, it's literally not, it's not even a class. They just take attendance. It's not that long, and you don't really get to do anything in there, but it's like doesn't last long, and you just take attendance and then leave once the bell rings.
So home base is the start of the school day for the students. So every single day you're going to start your day in home base. I think it's about 7 minutes actually long, if I remember correctly from when I was there. And that's where the teachers take attendance. That's where announcements are made, the Pledge of Allegiance happens. So all of that stuff that happens in the beginning of the day happens during home base. So it's important for you to be on time to home base because that's where you could be marked late for the day. And like what everyone else said, Madden and Noelle and Izzy, it is a time to socialize and get yourself just oriented and in the right mindset for a good positive day. So that definitely helps. Okay, I'm going to throw this one out to the parents. I want to talk a little bit about what was the biggest shift as parents that you had from Salem to Weber. So does anyone want to start there? Mrs. Falco, you want to start with that?
Sure. So I would say the tests, a lot more tests and quizzes. And I think Noah said this. Initially, they give you some time to get used to it. But then, depending on the teachers and the house, I think those can feel a little bit overwhelming for kids because they're not used to being tested so frequently. But I think after a while they definitely get used to it and realize that sometimes you're just having off days, so not doing as well is okay. And after a while, I think it kind of it works itself out. But I think initially for us that was a little bit stressful.
Thank you. Mr. Zofchuk, I saw you raise your hands, and then I'll go to Ms. Singer.
I think it's important to try to keep track who's who. There's not one teacher anymore. So it was a little bit like, oh, what teacher is that? What subject is that? And there's no parent-teacher conference. So you kind of have to look on the Aspen, and you have to look and try to keep yourself up to speed with how they're doing in school because there's less interaction there's multiple teachers. So you have to kind of keep on top of what's going on.
Thank you. Ms. Singer?
I'm going to piggyback after what Michael just said. At Salem, it's so intimate and you're used to being in the building and you know the teachers and you know their faces. And I think a big adjustment for me was not knowing where Noah was all day, what the room looked like, what the halls looked like, who the teachers were. So I think for me, that was an adjustment. But what I found that the teachers are very, very open to, if you email with them, they'll respond right away, to getting to know you. So that was a big adjustment for me, that, not knowing the building. And also a big adjustment was letting Noah do a lot of this. There were things that at Salem I would have, emailed the teacher or called the teacher on. And in middle school, the kids are expected to do it. And I thought that was it was really cool just to watch it happen. The teachers were so open to it. And there were times where I would reach out to a teacher and then realize it's really Noah's job to do that. And as the year went on, he was doing it more, I was doing it less. And that's a big change in a positive way.
I see a lot of head nods from Mrs. Kinsey, Miss Novak, so Ms. Reyes. So does anyone else Ms. Kinsey want to add to that?
Yeah, I think we had that same exact kind of adjustment where we had to start shifting to getting Noelle to advocate more for herself rather than me being the one to send an email or reach out. I will say, however, though, anytime it did come to something where I did have to reach out to the teachers about something, they're so responsive. They get back to you so quickly, really, really incredibly supportive. And I think that's the biggest shift is really, and the teachers push it. And then if you're doing it at home also, helping them to become more independent and advocate for themselves and taking a back seat, a little bit more so, that really makes a big difference. And I also think that this particular class missed some of the preparation that the group we're speaking to probably did get. And so that I think that our adjustment may have been a little bit more difficult because we missed so much. We missed the spring of their 5th grade year. But even so, their teachers really, really focus. That's a big focus, at least in Greenhouse, I know, is working on that, on building that independence and for the kids to really, to advocate for themselves and be more independent.
Yeah, that's completely true. And I think you need to know your child. So the philosophy of middle school is getting them ready, prepared for high school, which is hard to think as you're sitting here with 5th graders, or even as a parent sitting here with 6th graders, But by the time they get to high school, we want them to be advocates for themselves. We want them to be independent, and it to be the interaction would be between the teacher and the student versus in elementary where the expectation is between the parent and the student. So these middle years are really there for it to build those skill sets. So some children might have it right away, and you have to know your child. So you might be able to start September knowing that your child's gonna be able to handle it, be independent. You might be hands off from September and never speak to a teacher, never even need to look at the Aspen Parent Portal, which I'll explain what that is in 1 minute. But then if you know your child struggles with organization, your child maybe struggles with homework and how to study, then you might want to be a little bit more hands-on and start relinquishing some of the dependency as it goes on the year. So you really have to know your child the best to answer that question, how involved you need to be. But even on this panel right here, there's people that are super involved and people who may be a little less involved and people somewhere in the middle. So know your child best for that. I just want to talk a little bit about here's a question. Hi, it's Matt. I have a question about off periods. So there are no off periods in middle school. There are off periods once you get to the high school. The middle school off period, the only time you sort of have to sort of be off periods, I guess your recess and your lunch is sort of more of just a relaxed type of period, but there are not off periods. I see Noelle and I see Stella. Do you want to add to that, Noelle?
I feel like sometimes you do kind of have an off period just because sometimes, like today, my social studies teacher wasn't here, so one of the gym teachers took us outside and we went on the track and some of us played kickball and but you don't really just go you can't really just go somewhere and just do something. You have to it's still kind of a class time. So
right. Stella, want to add about off periods?
Yeah, I wouldn't say, I would totally agree. We didn't have off periods, and I wouldn't call them off periods in middle school. Some teachers call them free periods, I guess. But in the beginning of the year, a lot of our teachers were having technical difficulties, and I really don't know if this, because this isn't talking about the normal school year, but they gave us free periods where we just sat and either did work or if we finished our work, read or did something at home when they weren't there. But as the weather got nicer, I realized that not our core teachers, but take example, Miss Burgess, our core extension teacher, always takes us out to play kickball, or Miss Sook always takes us out to go outside. And we're not having off periods, but it's a lot more socialization, and we're doing, well, I don't want to say doing less work, but for periods that aren't as important as our core, we're going outside much more and we're socializing more as playing kickball every week with Miss Burgess. It's like she has her own little league team. It's really fun.
That sounds like fun. Now you want to add about off periods?
It isn't really about off periods. I just remember a lot of things that I was nervous for that it turns out I didn't have to be nervous for. And I can't speak for anyone else here, but I know one of the things that I was very worried about was essays, because 4th, 5th grade at Salem, I remember they would have you write essays to try and prepare you for 6th grade, because you would have a lot of essays in 6th grade. We haven't really had too many essays, at least in Blue House. And I remember that was one of the things I was really worried about that I then found out I didn't have to be as worried about. I'm not saying there are no essays, but they're less than expected. Like, you don't have to write an essay every day. And also, I remember I was also worried that the teachers were going to be expecting, like, perfection on everything. Like, they were going to expect, an 100 on every test. And I remember I got super worried about that. And you don't have to be worried about that. As long as you study and you try your best, you don't have to get an 100. Just whatever is the best you can do, that's the best. That's what they want.
Perfect.
And so
Yep, they
you
want
don't need
effort.
perfection. So don't worry about it.
They want to see your effort. Thank you. Noelle, your hand raised. Is that about the, is that nothing? You're good? Okay. So there is, I mentioned a parent portal. I think a couple of the parents had mentioned that for the parents listening. Some teachers, not every teacher, but a lot of the teachers do post the grades on what's called a parent portal, which is through Aspen, our student information system. And you can look and see if your children are handing in assignments, if they're up to date on tests and homework, all of that fun stuff. So be on the lookout. You'll get a letter over the summer regarding that. You'll also be getting a letter in July about your house assignment. So that comes out early on. I want to urge everybody to take a deep breath. Remember that the children follow the parents' lead a lot of the time. So if you're overly anxious and upset, then the child's going to be overly anxious and upset. So you might open that house letter in July and you might not have your best friend in the house. It's going to be okay. I promise you. I think, Stella, do you want to add to what I'm saying right now?
I just also want to say, I'm going to be honest, one thing that really kind of, I think a lot of older kids or a lot of kids that were already in told me a lot of stereotypes about houses and told me a lot of things about houses before I actually got my house. But I'm telling you, 5th graders, I know that there's one 5th grader that's watching this or one 5th grader that doesn't want a specific house or is anxious about it because they heard it's too much work, bad teachers, please don't believe it. Don't believe that what your house is bad. I made that mistake by thinking the house that I got was bad when I turned out to absolutely love my house. I'm with my friends. I made new friends. My teachers are great. The workload, there's work, but that's what you get in 6th grade. Just don't believe any of stereotypes and don't want a specific house. It's not worth getting the stress over and having that anxiety because you're just going to go into the middle and you'll be like, why was I fussing over the summer about this? This is fine.
I love that advice.
I would suggest.
I love that. Yes, Noelle.
Wait, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Okay. It's all good. Dylan, do you have anything to add about house assignments or when you got that letter in July, what your feelings were?
So when I found out that I was in Yellow House, I was kind of excited but nervous because there was a lot of stereotypes about how our teachers were. But my brother is also in Yellow House, so he also told me that about this teacher, about that teacher. But some of the teachers that he had in 6th grade are not there anymore. So we had some new teachers in Yale House at least.
Right. And I think I know there's Facebook, from what I heard, there's Facebook groups of what houses for the parents, what houses the children are in. Then there's sometimes spreadsheets that go out, and there's lots of stuff that happens. Just don't get caught up in the drama. There's gonna be enough middle school drama in general. We want to keep it, we want to keep it lower. Just remember, be the models for our children, because that helps. Okay. Let's see. We did lunch. We did homework. We touched upon tests. Oh, any advice about tests and quizzes? I think a parent mentioned. I think Mrs. Falco was talking about tests and quizzes, but I didn't hear necessarily from the students about tests and quizzes. So any advice, Noelle? And then we'll go to Izzy.
One of my favorite studying methods I don't know if other people would find this helpful, but I find it really helpful. I really like to make like Quizlets, because there's like a lot of different options that you could like work with there. Also another way to study, which is good, is quizzes. I know they sound like the same, but they're different. And there's like a lot of different things that you will your teachers will tell you about probably, and you'll use. And also try to like study like more, like spread it out. Like if you get the when your test is going to be, try to study before that instead of like just like the night before. But yeah.
Great. And Izzy, you want to add to the test and quiz conversation?
Yeah. So like some tests, like they're worth like 39 points, and like some of them are worth like 100. And some tests, like I may study for a lot for, and sometimes I don't have to study at all. It just depends, and it's always better to study than to not study. And I like to use flashcards. They're probably the best. And I know my science teacher gives us a lot of flashcards and like study guides and stuff to help prepare.
For those of you who don't know what Quizlet is like online flashcards. So sometimes people are better about like handwriting out the flashcards and having the actual paper in front of them. Some of them like it online. So there's all different things. Okay, we're going to do Stella and Noah and then Madden. I'm going to pop someone out and put Madden in, and then we'll do our last final, and Dylan. Okay, so we're going to do Stella, Noah, Madden, Dylan. We're going to do our final round robin with parents and students. So Stella, go first.
Also, this is about like, since we're talking about tests and studying, I also would, if you're like nervous about a test, I also wanted to say this with home base. There's also extra help, and teachers are really open with you, just emailing them and saying, hey, I don't understand this question. I'm really confused. Could you email me how I can do better at this? Or can I talk to you and can you help me? And like Miss Hall or all my teachers are very consistent with telling us when extra help is and when we need to be there. Like every Thursday morning at 7:30, it's math extra help. Mm-hmm. And if I don't understand something on a weekly, on the test, I ask her. Also, I don't know if this is all my houses, but my math teacher is my home base teacher, and she always tells us, you can come to me during home base to help you. Mm-hmm. She says that you can, this is the time for us to talk. So don't be scared of asking teachers questions and emailing them, because I promise you they will try to help you the best of their abilities, and they will try to make sure you understand the criteria for the test.
Perfect. That's great. That's something that just came up, so I'm happy you brought that up, Stella. Every teacher is required to have extra help sessions for the students before and after school. So, or depends on when the teacher schedules it. So it could be either before or after, depending upon the teacher. But you'll get that schedule and definitely utilize that, because it's a great free resource for the students, and it makes a great connection between the students and the teacher. It shows the teachers out there, they're really wanting to learn and they're really interested in their learning. So that's great. Okay, I think I said Noah next, and then I think I said Madden, and then Dylan. I think it was that order.
Okay, so first of all, study. It just helps, and I know for me, flashcards never really worked, but there are definitely ways other than flashcards. I found instead of flashcards, ask a family member to read some questions off a list, and then have you answer it. But don't just let them give you a lot of time. make it like you have 5 seconds to answer each question, it works. And also for foreign languages, it's very helpful to if you have someone who also speaks the language you chose. Like I chose Spanish, my grandpa speaks fluent Spanish, and so it's very helpful to have someone who can help you study. And also extra help is awesome. And for the tests, you're going to be prepared. You should study outside of school also, but I know for like math, my teacher, Miss O'Shea, she'll give us a study guide, and then if the test is on Friday, we'll spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday filling out the study guide and going over everything so we're fully prepared for the test. And if you still need help, go to the extra helps. I've only done it a few times, and each time I came more prepared than I expected to after it.
That's great. Yeah, those extra helps are really, really important. Okay, Madden and then Dylan about tests and quizzes.
So I think also don't be afraid to ask your teachers, like, hey, can you make a study guide? I want to make sure that I'm prepared for the test. I've done that before and it's helped me a lot. And study whichever way helps you the most.
Yep, and it might take a little while to figure out which way that is. You know, it's not going to necessarily be on the first try, so you might not know. It might take the whole 6th grade to figure out what your best type of studying method is. Don't kick yourself. Don't beat yourself up. That's all part of the process of middle school. Dylan, what about for you?
One of the ways of studying that helps me a lot is trying to find someone that is either maybe in your class or in your pod to study with. Like either like call them and ask them like together trying to figure out one thing and trying to figure out another thing. And they could also quiz you about like what does this mean? What is the answer to this? And don't slack off. Like, go study like every day. Don't just study it the day before test, because there will be pop quizzes here and there, and then you won't know like if things if you don't study enough.
Thank you, Dylan. Okay, so we're rounding to almost our hour point already. It goes by really quickly. So I'm going to ask our final question. I'm going to ask each parent and student to answer this question. And I'm going to pop myself off, and I'll put Izzy and Mrs. Falco back in, and you can just go around the different boxes. But the question is, if you could give our 5th graders and their 5th grade parents the one piece of advice, what would it be? So why doesn't Madden and Mr. Zofchak start? I'm going to pop myself out, and then I'm going to add the Falcos in.
You first.
Okay, so one piece of advice I would like to add is don't be afraid to make new friends, because you might not be with people from elementary school. You might not be with your best friend. So don't be afraid to be social, and don't be afraid to make new friends.
I think that's key, and the pool of friends is way bigger, so don't be afraid of that. And the socialization and the foster the independence, whether it be in school and studying or after school, and the kind of groups go to Starbucks or go for pizza, right? Don't be afraid of that. It's all part of it.
You should. Okay, I'll go next if that's okay. I would say go into it with an open mind, and as Madden said, make new friends, and also don't be afraid to ask questions, and just stay positive, and try to not sweat the little stuff, and just make sure to just have fun and learn and ask questions.
Sorry. I would say just really cultivate independence and emphasize to your middle schooler who will be going through a lot of highs and lows and a lot of changes that obstacles are a good thing, and that the way they feel at that moment won't be the way they always feel, and just to make some grit and be okay with things not being as good as they might have been or the grades as high as they used to be, but that the obstacles are a good thing.
I'll go next. I would say get to know the people in your house and in your grade in general, because most likely you'll be with them all throughout middle school and maybe even through high school. So I'm not saying get to be best friends with everybody, but get to be comfortable around everyone in your grade, or most.
My advice would be that the transition from elementary to middle school is very big in terms of the level of independence and the amount of schoolwork. I think a life skill that the kids really need to know is time management and to be organized. And I think those two skills would really help them in managing their schoolwork, their assignments, their tests, after school activities, social activities. So I think that time management and organization skills are an important skill that the kids need to be taught.
I'll go. And so time management and organization, you really need to get that down. I'm still working on it. It's hard. And I would say, for one piece of advice, don't be afraid to ask for help. Always ask for help. Even if you don't need help, ask for help. And don't beat yourself up if even with help, you need more help. You get the idea.
All
But
right. Don't unmute because I have advice too. I would just say, don't assume your children I necessarily have the skills to do things independently. You might need to teach them how to email a teacher properly, teach them the right way to approach a teacher to discuss a grade or an assignment, but let them do it. Don't do it for them. I think the skill is really, really important, and it's the year to work on it. They're not expected to be great at being independent, but they got to start somewhere. So I would say start from scratch and start teaching them how to do these things. And yeah, I think sixth grade's the year to do it.
yeah, I'd just say, remember, your parents aren't emailing the teachers, you are.
Okay.
I think I'd say even if you are friends with some of the people in your pod or house or something, I would try to make some new friends, or even just one, because you can make it a really, there's a lot of new people and different kinds of people that they're not all the same kinds of people from your elementary school. And also I'd say manage your time as best as you can, because that's important, and it's going to be different, all of it, everything. It's going to be pretty different, but it's not it's not going to be that different in a hard way. Just, yeah.
I would say, just kind of agree with something Adina said earlier, and Lauren also, being aware, certainly putting them in the driver's seat, but at the beginning at least, kind of using Google Classroom is such a great tool. You can have them show you what it is that they have coming up in all their classes. And then it's just, it's just a way to kind of, at the beginning, help them make sure they're staying on track and they're staying on top of things. Because it can be really easy to, with all the different classes, to lose track of something here and there. But I also will, would say there's tons of assessments. Like the good news to lots of quizzes and tests is that you constantly have a chance to bring that grade back up. And so, you don't get discouraged if you flounder a bit in one unit. You're going to have lots of time to bring that grade back up.
Thank you. I think we got everybody, right? That was all 6 of us?
Okay.
No, Falco's, sorry.
Okay, so I would say just stay organized and stay focused, and don't get like really upset if you get a bad grade because there's always time to make it up. And yeah.
The only thing I'm going to say is, because everyone's really given some great advice, is that it will be fine. It really, even with a difficult year that we've had this year, I think it turned out to be a great year so far. These kids are so resilient. They adapt to change quickly. And I think, I'm so proud of all of them. And as well as the teachers and the staff. And just remember, the teachers are there to help you. And they will help you and guide you. You just need to ask. So don't be afraid to ask for help, and have fun. It will be such an exciting year for you.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. This is why I have all of you do this versus me, because you have such great insight. I just want to thank the Kinseys, the Singers, the Novaks, the Zavchaks, the Falcos, and the Reyeses. Sorry that you can't be in the front right now, Dylan and Mom, but you did wonderful tonight. Thank you so much for doing this. And for all the fifth graders, we're here for you. And for the parents, if you have any questions, you can reach out to any of us, me. Like I said, I was at Weber at one point, so I do have knowledge, and there will be an orientation late in August. So for all the fifth grade parents and students, have a great night. Thank you.